Let me show you something. This right here is my maxed out Roth IRA over the last 2 years. And this one over here, this is what it looked like over the 5 years before that, before I got serious, before I stopped making excuses, before I finally treated this account like it deserved to be treated. I'm showing you these two things side by side because I want you to feel the difference. Not just see it, feel it. Because when I look at those two timelines, I don't just see numbers on a screen. I see years of my life. I see a version of me that was confused and scared and honestly a little embarrassed that I didn't know more. And then I see a version of me that woke up, got focused, and watched this account skyrocket past $100,000 and beyond. And I want to walk you through every single step of that journey right now. The wins, the stumbles, the year I completely fell apart and didn't invest a single dollar. All of it. Because if I only show you the highlight reel, I'm not doing you any favors. And you deserve the real story. Let's go back to 2021. The max contribution for a Roth IRA that year was $6,000. And out of that $6,000 possible, you know how much I put in? $1,940, 5.35. Not $6,000, not even close to $6,000, less than a third of what I was allowed to contribute. And honestly, I wasn't even upset about it at the time because I was just proud that I had opened the account. I had been hearing about Roth IRAs for years. People talking about them on podcasts, in YouTube comments, in articles I half read during lunch breaks. And every single time I heard someone mention a Roth IRA, I thought, yeah, I really need to do that. And then I just didn't. I stalled. I procrastinated. I convinced myself I needed to know more before I started. I told myself I'd do it next month, next quarter, after the holidays, after the new year, once things calmed down. And once things calmed down, kept getting pushed further and further out until it was 2021, and I finally looked at myself in the mirror and said, no more. Let's go. So I opened it, and I was excited. The kind of excited where you go a little overboard. Let me tell you what I put my money into, because looking back on it now, it's wild. Ready? I had Walmart, Amazon, the Vanguard Total Bond Market ETF, and I say this knowing full well that I cannot stand bonds, so don't ask me what I was thinking. I had the Vanguard Developed Markets ETF. I had Microsoft, Google, the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation ETF, the Vanguard Total World Stock ETF, Disney, Alibaba, the Vanguard S&P 500, VOO, Tesla, VCIT, VTI, Apple, and some mid-cap ETF I barely remember. 23 holdings, 23. I had spread $495.26 across all of those positions, like I was throwing seeds across an entire field, hoping something would grow. And whenever I had a little extra cash, $200 here, $200 there, I'd buy more. 18 buys, 17 buys, and every single purchase would spread across all of those positions like I was feeding a crowd with a single loaf of bread. Here's what I thought I was doing. I thought I was being smart. I thought I was diversifying. I thought spreading my money across 24 positions meant I was protected, sophisticated, building something real. But what I was actually doing was diluting everything I owned to the point where no single investment could meaningfully move the needle. I was so afraid of being wrong about one thing that I spread myself so thin across everything that being right about any of it barely mattered. And the thing is, I didn't know better. That's not me being hard on myself. That's just the truth. We do what we know, and at that point, I didn't know much. What I knew was more holdings equals more diversification equals more safety. Except it doesn't quite work that way, and I was about to learn that the hard way. By August of 2021, something shifted. I had been listening to a podcast called Earn Your Leisure for a while, and through that podcast, I started really paying attention to this guy named Ian Dunlap. And the more I listened to him, the more I realized that the way I was investing was the exact opposite of what he was talking about. His philosophy was simple, almost aggressively simple. You don't need 23 holdings. You don't need to be in every sector, every index, every emerging market, every dividend ETF under the sun. What you need is a small, tight, reliable core. 2 strong tech companies, 2 reliable index funds or ETFs. That's it. 4 positions. Know them, trust them, hold them. I want to be completely clear. That philosophy is Ian's. He built it. He taught it. I'm not standing here claiming I came up with any of this. What I did was hear it, recognize the truth in it, and decide to apply it to my own life. Because that's what smart people do. They learn from people who know more than they do. So I sold 18 of my 23 holdings. Let that sink in. 18 positions gone. And when the dust settled, I had 5. Google, Apple, Microsoft, Visa, and BTI. Companies I actually knew. Companies I used every single day. Companies I understood on an almost personal level. Now that still wasn't a perfect implementation of Ian's philosophy. His framework is 2 tech, 2 index. Mine was still a little cluttered, but it was dramatically better than where I started. And throughout the rest of 2021, I kept simplifying, kept tightening, kept putting money into VTI and VOO whenever I could. And by the time the year closed out, I was down to 4 positions: Visa, VTI, Apple, and Microsoft. That was the lineup, my starting 4, my foundation. And let me tell you why those 4 in particular resonated with me so deeply. Because it's not just about the numbers. Apple, I use Apple every single day. Their products are sitting in my house right now. Microsoft, I use Microsoft products at work, at home, for almost everything. Visa, every time I swipe my card, Visa gets a little piece of that. VTI, that's the entire US stock market in one fund. If America grows, VTI grows. If American businesses thrive, VTI thrives. There's something profoundly grounding about investing in things you actually understand and use and believe in. It removes the noise. It removes the panic. When the market gets volatile and people start selling everything in a frenzy, you're sitting there thinking, I know these companies. I know what they do. I'm not scared. That peace of mind is underrated. Seriously. The ability to sleep at night during a market downturn is one of the most valuable things a portfolio can give you. And my 4-position lineup gave me that. I need to talk about 2022, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it, because this was the hardest year of my life. Not just financially, but emotionally, spiritually, in every way that matters. How much did I contribute to my Roth IRA in 2022? 0. Nothing. Not a single dollar. And before you judge that, before you sit there and think, how could someone just stop investing for a whole year? Let me tell you what that year actually looked like for me. I lost my aunt. That's the thing that sits heaviest when I think about 2022. Grief does something to you that nobody really prepares you for. It doesn't just make you sad. It makes everything feel like it's moving underwater. Decisions that should be simple feel impossible. Goals that once felt exciting feel completely meaningless. And the idea of sitting down to plan my financial future felt like a cruel joke when someone I loved was gone, and the future felt very uncertain and very fragile. Beyond the grief, I was dealing with some deeply untrustworthy people in my professional world. People who smiled to my face and said things behind my back that I never said and never did. People who tried to undermine my reputation and my leadership at a time when I was still figuring out how to lead. And that took me back, viscerally, almost physically, to my very first job. That first job nearly broke me. I was a brand new manager. I didn't fully understand yet how to delegate, how to have difficult conversations, how to identify the people who were working against me while pretending to be allies. I got backstabbed repeatedly. My character was questioned, my competence was questioned, and I didn't have the tools yet to fight back in the right way. I spent almost 2 years in that environment before I got out. When 2022 started stirring up those same feelings, the same paranoia, the same second guessing, the same sense that the people around me weren't safe, I shut down. I went internal. I focused on surviving the year, not building for the future. And here's what I want you to hear, especially if you've had a year like that. I don't regret how I handled it. Not really, because I was doing the best I could with what I had. Was my Roth IRA neglected? Yes. Did I lose out on investment opportunities? Absolutely. The market was crashing in 2022, and historically, market crashes are the best time to buy. I knew that. I still know that. The rule I've lived by in investing is, when others get fearful, that's when I get greedy. That's when you step in and load up on the great companies at a discount. And to my credit, I was still investing, just not in my Roth IRA. I was putting money into my individual brokerage account at Webull, buying Nvidia and Google and Apple at depressed prices. I was still showing up for myself in some capacity. But the Roth IRA, it sat there quietly, waiting for me to come back. And I did. 2023 was about getting up, not about arriving anywhere, just about standing back up and starting to move again. The max contribution that year was $6,500. I put in $2,000. Flat. Not the maximum, not even close. But more than I'd done in my first year, which felt like something. It felt like progress, even when the math said otherwise. And what I did with that $2,000 was simple. Every single dollar went into the same 4 positions: Visa, VTI, Apple, and Microsoft. No experimentation, no chasing trends, no trying to find the next Tesla or the next Nvidia. Just consistent, boring, reliable contributions to 4 companies and funds that I trusted completely. But I'll be honest with you, even as I was doing that, part of my brain was fighting me on it. Part of me kept thinking, this is too slow. These are boring. I need something that's going to 10 times, something explosive, something that's going to turn this $2,000 into $20,000 overnight. And that's the trap. That's the trap that catches so many of us, especially when we're young and ambitious and have been told our whole lives that we need to hustle harder and move faster and dream bigger. We want the dramatic story. We want the Tesla moment. We want to look back someday and say we were early to something. But here's what I had to learn, and this was a real mindset shift that didn't come easily. Boring is the strategy. Boring is powerful. Boring is what builds generational wealth. The people who are quietly, consistently putting money into the same 4 reliable positions every single month, year after year, decade after decade, those are the people who end up with something real, not the people chasing the spike. By the end of 2023, I was building towards something. I hadn't arrived, but I was pointed in the right direction. And that matters more than people realize. I set a goal at the beginning of 2024 that scared me a little. I said out loud to myself, to whoever was listening, that I was going to max out my Roth IRA that year, the full $7,000. Not $2,000, not $1,945 like my first year. $7,000 in 12 months, no excuses. I want to be honest with you about why that goal felt audacious to me. Because by that point, I was building toward my first $100,000 in net worth. That hadn't happened yet. And allocating $7,000 to a single account, a retirement account that I couldn't touch without penalty for decades, required a level of trust in myself and in the future that I had to consciously cultivate. It required me to say, I'm going to be okay. The future is worth investing in. My future self deserves this. So I did it. Some months I put in $500, some months $700, some months more, some months less. I took a couple months off entirely because life doesn't always cooperate with a perfect monthly contribution schedule. But I stayed focused on the destination, $7,000 by December. And here's the rule I set for myself that I think made all the difference. I gave myself the 12 months, not the 16. Now, the IRS actually lets you count contributions made before the April tax deadline as the prior year's contribution. So technically, I had until April 2025 to finish maxing out my 2024 Roth IRA. But I refused to use that buffer. And not because I'm self-righteous about it, because I know myself. If I give myself more time, I will use more time. I'll say, it's okay, I have until April. And then suddenly it's February and I'm scrambling and feeling stressed about something that should have been done in December. So I cut off the escape route. 12 months, $7,000, done. And something happened when I completed that goal that I wasn't fully prepared for. I felt proud. Not just relieved, not just satisfied, genuinely proud in a way that felt different from other financial wins. Because maxing out a Roth IRA isn't just a financial decision. It's a statement about who you are and what you believe your future is worth. It's saying, I'm investing in a version of myself I haven't met yet. I'm planting seeds in soil I may not harvest from for 20 or 30 years. And I'm doing it anyway, because I believe in what's coming. That's not a small thing. That's an act of faith. But wait, because there's a moment in this story that I still can't tell without getting a little emotional. And it has to do with an old 401k from a previous job. Now, I'll admit, when I first started looking back at that